Dr. Sampath,
Okay.
Honorable Minister for Law, Honorable Justices who are present here, and Madras Development Society for giving me this wonderful opportunity to talk about cultural challenges in mediation. Globalization has opened up new avenues in the arena of dispute resolution process. Despite this being a growth area, a little focus has been paid to conflicts of culture when compared to the other issues. With my experience in conflict resolution procedures, I have learned that it is necessary to approach an unresolved issue by viewing its holistic dimension in general and cultural dimension in particular. Mediation aims to become an ideal forum for the resolution of disputes between parties from different jurisdictions and many times from different cultures. However, the challenge that comes with the diversified culture is inherent in the process. Unless the participants understand and embrace this diversity, the full potential of the process will not be unraveled. The cultural differences among participants in mediation, combined with the lack of satisfactory resolutions, raises two significant questions about the effectiveness of mediation in situations involving cultural diversity. First, how do cultural differences among mediation participants, disputants, mediators, and interpreters impact the effectiveness of mediation? Secondly, how might these differences be taken into account to maximize the effectiveness of mediation? Let's view 3 points concerning culture. First, that culture affects people's values, beliefs, perceptions, and behaviors. Second, that both individual and cultural differences contribute to the differences in values, beliefs, perceptions, and behaviors. And third, the degree of interculturalness in a continuum rather than a dichotomy. In addition, I will not forget to include subcultures. An individual may be also belong to numerous subcultures, each contributing to that individual's cultural identity and thought process. Lack of cultural understanding and or neglecting sensitivity to the cultural diversity will become a major hurdle in mediation. When mediators fail to understand the basics of these before commencing their venture with the assumption and belief that human values and their impact operate in similarity to their own culture of the other participants. In a multicultural country like India or elsewhere like Australia, with an increasingly well-connected global community, language and culture play a predominant role in social landscape. What is culture? The term culture is used to describe the values, languages, religious beliefs, social habits, and communication codes of a group of people. Through shared experience over time, members of a cultural group learn about acceptable ways to behave and appropriate means of communicating their needs and beliefs. Culture is not static, but adapts over time and accustomed to changing circumstances. The concept of culture itself is complex in nature, encompassing multiple disciplines. Therefore, it is automatically implies that there is bound to be a difference in opinions and possibility of conflict. Culture plays a predominant role in forming opinions and influencing actions following such opinions. At the same time, cultural differences in forming opinions and deciding actions will lead to a conflict of culture as a part of the process. Culture and communication are inseparable because culture not only dictates who talks with whom about what and how the communication proceeds, it also helps to determine how people encode messages, the inherent meanings of those messages, and the conditions and circumstances. Culture and communication speaks linguistically. Culture includes verbal and nonverbal signals in communication. Without explicit statements, a person can convey a great deal about their personal comfort and attitudes, their analysis of the respective statuses of their person, their willingness to negotiate or accommodate, and their views about another party's remark. This information potentially has a powerful influence on relationship and is helpful for mediators to understand. Language is a powerful tool, no doubt. formality and technicality of the language differ, language also reflects values and social structures which can vary enormously across culture. Example, English has a single word to address a second person subject, you, whereas many Asian languages have multiple alternatives, the choice being dependent on the level of respect, difference, and the familiarity a speaker wants to show to their addressee. The other areas which impact mediations are religion, gender conflicts, celebrations, festivals, holidays, and many more. Cultural issues can also affect the power balance between the parties in the substantive dispute at a mediation. Some power imbalances may be impossible to address through mediation. It is helpful if the mediator is at least aware of how any inquiry might affect the dispute. Basic skills for mediators should therefore include able to identify situations where cross-cultural differences pose a potential barrier to a dispute resolution, able to assess how such differences affect the balance of power between the parties, and consider in each case whether it is appropriate to take any steps to manage cross-cultural differences between or before or after problems arise. The competency of a mediator is measured by the strong skills in facilitating communication. This is part of the process of creating and nurturing a dispute resolution atmosphere in which parties feel respected and comfortable to speak, carefully listen, and confidently respond. If not, critical nuances of meaning can be missed and lead to a breakdown in understanding. While one party's demonstration of respect and appropriate social etiquette in his own culture can be a gross insult to the other party's culture, misunderstandings will escalate conflict and create loss of trust, damage feelings, or aggravate anger, all potentially detrimental to the mediation process. A mediator who lacks an understanding of this linguistic phenomenon risks mistakenly concluding that the parties have agreed on an issue that remains a major source of contention. Choice of co-mediators is possible with cultural background can be a suggestion to consider. However, this may create the risk that mediator will find themselves pushed into siding with cultural groups they represent by repeatedly having to explain that group's conduct. To isolate culture as the primary source of difference between the parties when there may be many layers could be limiting. Power differences and cultural imbalances are other additional hindrance in the arbitration process, whereas there are aggravating factors escalating the issues of disputes due to cross-cultural differences in the mediation process. Flexible procedures may be adapted to resolve the differences. Communicating across culture is a very challenging in mediation process. Understanding the culture and appropriate communication needs to be paid attention to future mediation related education and training programs. If it is necessary to include cultural awareness and cultural competency in the professional development programs in the field of mediation to avoid culturally ignorant participation. Cultural ignorance is also related with other terms such as cultural awareness, cultural conflict, cultural acceptance, cultural sensitivity, cultural tolerance as well. With this note, I once again thank you, Madras Development Society and Dr. Sampath for this wonderful opportunity and all the participants who were able to listen to my speech today. Thank you very much.